Good morning. Thanks for being in this session. So this session is all about unleashing power of data in energy transformation. So when this topic was given, I was kind of intrigued with the choice of word of energy transformation. Generally, we hear energy transition, right? So the word transformation kind of caught my attention. So when I was thinking about it, I almost kind of drew a parallel in my mind and how the information technology has evolved and how now the energy technologies, energy transformation is happening. So if you see 30, 40 years back from an information technology perspective, we all had mainframes, which was very server oriented, and clients were actually supposed to connect and then get the data from there, right? And that's very similar to the traditional sources of energy, what we have got, the coal-fired thermal plants, the natural gas-fired thermal plants, all the generation happening at one side, and then the transmission and distributing happening to the customers. So that's the parallel there. And then we moved on to internet, where anybody can produce the content, can put it, anybody can go ahead and kind of consume that content, right? So very similar to what's in the era we are in now, which is all about renewables. Customers are becoming prosumers. They can produce and they can put it onto the grid. Our farmers are also producing energy now from Annadata. They're becoming Urja Data. So a lot of democratization of energy happening there. Very similar to what we saw, what we are experiencing from an internet perspective. And now moving on from there, the next technology which kind of comes to my mind is blockchain. Again, drawing a very parallel to the One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative, which is you're talking about connecting across different countries, across continents, right? And building trust, which is the ethos of the entire blockchain. So when I thought through this, the one single thread which was connecting across all these technologies was obviously data. So without data, nothing can be achieved, right? So today we'll discuss a bit on the data, on how it's actually helping us to do the transformation and how we are taking forward from there. So I would like to first invite Johan de Villiers from ABB to share his views on how data is actually helping us bring about the energy transformation. Over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Great to be here and to share with you. I think for me, it's important to understand, why do we need to transform the energy system? Why is it necessary? And of course, what it's about is for humanity to thrive, to really grow, develop. And so it's for us. It's for us to be. And so the minute you've got that perspective, you kind of think a little bit different about it. We need affordable energy, we need safe energy, we need reliable energy for industry to thrive, to create the jobs that we need to drive economic growth. And now we know that we also need sustainable energy. And we want to make sure that we can thrive for decades and centuries to come. And fortunately, this need to transform the energy system comes exactly when we're also having a digital revolution, and when we've discovered the power of data, and then sensors have become affordable, we can have them everywhere, computers become affordable. The biggest challenge we face is, what do we do with this data? We did a survey of around 800 executives in the industrial space and asked them, how do they use data? What is the state of play? And interestingly, only 20% of the data generated today is used or analyzed in any way, and even less, used to draw some insights and to take some actions. So that's where the opportunity lies. That's an absolute gold mine to most industrial companies. And energy producers are industrial companies. It's some of the most complex systems that you can imagine. Just think for 1 second about the lights that are on in this place, the electricity system that's active. Think about the systems, not only in India, but on other continents, where energy is produced in complex plants, transported here, coming into terminals, somehow finding its way into the grid, and all of this controlled in a safe and reliable way. So these are systems that no human being can control or manage. It's highly automated, there's lots of safety measures in there, and now we're adding digitalization to that. So using the data these systems generate to make them more sustainable. And that's got to deal with the systems that we have today, and it's got to enable us to generate the energy systems of tomorrow, the systems that we need for tomorrow. So in ABB, we call that net additions with less emissions. And maybe I just give you 3 examples of the power of data. So I'll start maybe a little bit further out. Let's start north. So in the North Sea, labor is expensive, and there's a very high focus on the carbon footprint of hydrocarbons. So with offshore production, what we've seen, and we did an independent study to verify this, that if we deploy autonomous operation technology, that means using data of equipment to postpone maintenance so that you don't need people on the platform, optimize the energy use, integrate renewables into these offshore systems, we can save more than 200,000 tons of carbon emissions every year only dealing with the production of the energy. So an enormous gain possible utilizing data. If you go to maybe down south in the Gorgon field in Australia producing LNG, and they needed to extend the life of that facility. So it's very expensive to put large platforms out on sea. These steel structures have got a very large carbon footprint. So the study we did is, let's take shore power to this field and let's place the motors on the seabed instead of on the platform. So we could half the size of the platform. This is only possible because we could simulate this whole system and the dynamics of it using data that was generated over centuries. So unlocked a tremendous advance in efficiency, reducing the carbon footprint of that whole system and driving the sustainability. And maybe closer to home here in India, just to pick a completely different example, deploying cybersecurity across some of the biggest power generators here so that you can confidently use the data and free the data in a safe way that doesn't compromise the security of the systems. And I can cite many more examples, but those are some of the exciting things I think that are enabled by data.
Yeah, thank you for that, Johan. So I think the ethos is all about net zero and not zero. And then from that perspective, efficiencies, operational excellence definitely plays a big role in that. So moving on to Dr. Pankaj Sharma, so you're from the PPAC, from the ministry, and obviously you deal with a lot of data in this space. So while companies are focusing on the data for their specific operations, how from an ecosystem perspective you are trying to enable this entire system from an India perspective? If you can just throw some light on that.
Thank you, Shridevi. But before I come to that question, I would like to add to De Villiers that recently although electricity is not my subject, I was going through a report and we found that lot of electricity usage has increased in India in daytime. So daytime electricity increase actually means that we are using artificial cooling, artificial heating and artificial lights. In fact, even now we are using artificial light during the day. So since the topic is about transition, that in fact in a sense so many things are not actually helping us in transiting, but rather it is worsening the situation that because of artificial use of electricity or any energy is creating that kind of situation. Coming to your question, as it is said that oil is new, data is new oil, and we deal in data of oil. So that is the beauty of our organization. We at PPAC collect the data of oil and gas consumption of country and also of production and everything related to oil. But what is important, which I will like to admit, is that as of now, most of the data collected even in other sectors is transactional data. And that is only post facto, that it shows you that how that energy or anything is being used. And although that can give you so many insights at how you can correct the situations, but we are not yet collecting the data which can help us further enhancing the transition. To make my point, I will, since we do not have much time, I will tell you two stories which can help us understand the importance of data. One is, I was recently reading about the importance of data, actually almost similar kind of subject. They gave a beautiful example that we give 1 vial of blood when we give sample, and it generates tens of 13s or 20s pages of data about hemoglobin, about PLC, about RBC, about glucose, so many things. And then that is analyzed to find out that what is the condition of our health. The same thing is true about data of particularly, in fact, in previous session we were talking about exploration, and most of the discussion was around this only, that how that data can help you draw conclusions which can help in exploration. Another very small example I will give you. Recently, I was doing a study about LPG usage. So, in fact, what we find that even now, in spite of so many, in fact, statistically saying 100% countries covered by LPG connections through Ujjwala scheme of government, but usage is not that much which should be there, particularly for Ujjwala consumers. So we were trying to find that what can be the causes. One most common causes which are told is that it is affordability, that people can't afford LPG, so they are not using it. So we tried to find out what is the trend in different states. So on the first hand, we found really it may be an issue because we found that Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, which are tribal states, where free fuel is available, so people are not using LPG. But then we thought it can't be just like that, because last year when LPG cylinder was at 900 rupees a cylinder, usage was almost same. Now today it is around 500. In many states it is 450, and even then usage has not changed. So affordability alone is not the reason. So for that we did a small analysis. I will share with that with the audience and you that for example, Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh, if you see the per capita consumption of LPG, it is 3/4, in fact less than that of national average. But if you go to petrol, it is almost at national average. For diesel, it is more than national average. What does that actually mean? That means that affordability is not issue in those places also. What I personally feel is that a lot of work has to be done, and that is why I said we are currently only on transactional data and we have to go to secondary data kind of things. What I personally feel is that it is a gender issue. Because LPG is used by housewives, ladies, the household is not willing to spend money on that. But when their boys go out to roam around in the town on motorcycle, they can afford it. So that kind of insights data gives you if you are trying to get that. So those are two stories from me which can give you idea that what data can do to analyze or make policies.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's a really nice story and resonates very well. So maybe now that we are moving to the renewable world, right? From an energy perspective, there's a lot of problems associated with that. The intermittency problem, right? And of course, you need a lot of storage which comes along with that. So how is data and AI is actually helping us solve the intermittency problems? What is some of the work you have done in this space, John?
That's an incredibly important point, that how does data enable us to generate these new energy systems? So maybe the first point I'll make is that the greenest energy you can have is energy you don't consume. So just to that point, if you can put data on the hands of the right people and they can adjust their behavior, we can change the way we operate plants. That's the highest gain, and that will continue to be a very important point. Just maybe one or two examples of how data used in the right way can enable these new energy systems. I mean, from our own experience, enabling new hydrogen production. Now, 70% of the cost of hydrogen production comes from the cost of the energy. And we've seen that by simulation and then modifying the way that the whole energy system works, 16% of that energy efficiency can be improved by 16%. Imagine that over the life of that asset. So that drives the viability of a new energy source. When you look at the way we operate some of the power systems at the moment, just looking at the assets, analyzing that data, trying to predict when these assets will fail, you can reduce unplanned asset failures by 60%. Incredible gain. So then on to maybe your question about how do you deal with the intermittency problem. Well, that's when you can start connecting the supply piece, the demand piece, and even look out a little bit further ahead. You can, basically what happens, if you look at industry, is the world of power control and process control are merging and coming together. And by exchanging data in a smart way, we found that you can often adjust processes to deal with intermittency, and that the systems are actually much more robust than we thought they would be. And then in terms of just basically planning, one of the solutions we've got, for example, is what we call a virtual power plant solution. So just helping a customer make a decision about the entire energy management of his system. So renewables available, maybe the wind blows, maybe the sun shines, maybe you need to charge your battery, maybe you need to take from the grid, maybe the price of electricity in 3 hours is going to be less than what it is now. And just knowing all that data, bringing it together and then drawing insights from that is a very pragmatic way of maximizing the use of renewables and making intelligent decisions to do whatever your objective is, either lowering lowest possible carbon footprint or maybe lowest cost of energy. So those are some examples.
Yeah. Thank you, Johan. That makes absolute sense. Dr. Pankaj, Johan covered from a power plant perspective the entire intermittency problems, right? What are you seeing from the customers' end? Because now they are getting into the prosumer space, they themselves are able to produce it. So how is data kind of enabling them to be as green as possible, as less cheaper as possible? And of course, ensuring that there is no disturbance in their consumption as such, right?
I will be very frank about if I talk from consumer side. What we find that consumer is that if it is affordable, they will shift to it. They do not have, they do not make any preferences whether it is green. I will be very frank, whether it is green or not green. It has to be, first thing is affordable. In fact, just to give you an example, that we know that the first cars on the road were EVs only in world. In fact, or similarly, hydrogen cars were the first car before coming petrol, diesel, or IC engine cars. So, as soon as we found a energy which was more affordable, more easily available, we shifted to oil and gas, and we forgot about hydrogen and electricity for 200 years. So, it has to be affordable if we want consumer to use it. And as shared, so many things are happening where it is being made affordable and accessible also. For example, I did not buy a CNG car when I see those lines on CNG stations. So many, now CNG stations are coming and consumers are shifting. The CNG share in transport is increasing every year very rapidly. Same is about EVs. As soon as consumers find that cars are available, so many models are coming. Last week only there was Auto Expo in Delhi, and I found that every car which is available in petrol, the same model is available in EV now. So, and when cars are available and then charging facilities are available, people will shift. We are seeing that in two-wheeler, the large number of vehicles are being bought. Three-wheeler, for example, in UP, you will find that almost all three-wheelers are being bought in EVs. So that is because charging is easy. Because they charge that at home. So they need not to go anywhere. Yeah. The same thing is about as soon as we find that four-wheeler charging is easy and models are available, customers will adopt.
Yeah. So you're saying convenience is the king here, right? Convenience followed by affordability. So combination of that is what is actually working. Well, I think we're almost at the top of the hour. So any closing remarks from you, Johan, on this particular topic?
I think there is a call to action. You know, the fact is data is the new oil. It's sitting out there, it's available. And I think it's unacceptable not to take action, not to use that to optimize what we have today and to plan for what needs to come in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you. Dr. Pankaj, from your side.
I firmly believe that data is quite big tool in hands of policy making. All of us know, I'm not sure how many of us know, that there is a scheme of government which is called aspirational district scheme, and now it has been extended to block level. That entire scheme is based on data only. Those districts have been decided based on developmental indexes, that data, and how to develop those. So that kind of schemes or that kind of policies can be made in all spheres of energy or any other development basis it.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing your views. So of course, data is super critical to ensure the energy transformation. What we couldn't touch today was data security, which is super critical. So maybe some next time we can have this conversation on data security. So with that, thank you so much for being part of this panel. Thank you.
I will just say that those things are only which will follow as soon as we are seeing that virus comes and then solution comes.
Yes.
Security, in my view, is not an issue. People will find solutions.
Will find solutions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.